right? Okay. And again, we're working in big generalities, very simplistic things, and the concept of this is just to kind of make sure that you're sort of covering all bases, okay? It's not that I don't think that you don't know these things aren't safe. Double negatives are always a thing. All right. So no matter what stuff happens, this is actually a great enrichment device that is presented, the meat is presented in one of two ways. They either put it up high with a rope that breaks away as soon as a dog or two grabs it, or they put it down low on a really tight rope so they really have to tear it apart, okay? In this case, the keeper got excited, International Conference on Enrichment, woohoo, you know, and put it up high on a tight rope. So they can't get it, okay? And so we actually had to radio the staff and have them pull this and give them their food in the back, okay? So no matter how well you plan things out, stuff happens, okay? And as Margaret said, and Colleen backed up, an enriched environment, by definition, is more dangerous. And with you guys, I don't worry about you understanding that. In a lot of places, the people who are trying to do enrichment are actually sneaking it because their bosses don't want them to do it, which is where we were 20 years ago in this country. So, and it's hard for them to understand that, no, you have to be upfront about it. You have to not only recognize yourself, but make sure that everybody in the area recognizes that you are introducing potentially, in some cases, lethal materials into the enclosure. You're still going to do it for all the reasons we've talked about, okay? But you really have to take that seriously and not just kind of, it'll be okay. For me, the way I always did it with my animals was, and for me, it's easier to concentrate if I'm literally kind of by myself. And I just, when we get to the prototypes out there and things are drawn, I literally look at this thing and go away and imagine my bear or my cat or whatever using it. Okay, and try and imagine every possible thing they can do with it. Can they pick it up? Can they roll it around? Can they stick their nose in it? Can they throw it out? You know, anything I can think of. And that actually helps me catch a lot of things that I didn't think of when we were drawing it out. But whatever works for you, right? So in general, and again, these are on your list, these are in your books, and that's the reason why I put them in there, so you can just read over them at your leisure. But one of the last one is things, or I guess the last two are things that people frequently forget. Enrichment items are, sadly, more often than like, used to escape from enclosures, okay? So that's clearly not a safe, I mean, that clearly is a safety issue. And then a lot of times we have guillotine doors, either up or slides, and so items that are loose can be carried and dropped on the runners or right under the guillotine. And then if you're looking at a tiger who puts his burlap sack there, thank you, burlap sack there, now you can't lock him in or out, right? And you can't go pull it because there's no protection between you and the tiger, right? So it's a safety issue. If you can't access the gates, if you can't make the gates work, that's a potentially really serious safety issue. So you really do have to think about that. And a lot of times with things like a tiger, we'll tether a lot of stuff because we know they schlep them around and drop them in places. Other keepers, some keepers will say, well, when it's this tiger, she really doesn't ever move anything around. She just I've been working with her for 4 years, and she pretty much always just uses it wherever I put it. And so they don't worry about it so much, you know. But again, it's whatever works. It's what your decision is going to have to be for your animals. So just
do you have damage to the enclosure right there?
No. I guess not, no. We could talk about that, but yeah, you're right. We should put that in. We'll remember. So I'm just going to walk you through, these are some of the common concerns, and I'm just going to walk you through these real quickly. Hole size is a big one. But what people don't realize is, yeah, you want to make, like, this is for a CMA, and they're just little teeny holes for crickets and mealworms to come out, and their fingers don't fit in there, and as she said, they're not all that finger-oriented anyway. So for them, decision was it's safe. And here's where I talk about enclosure damage. On the other hand, they like to pick it up and whack it against the plate glass. so this was like in 1990, you know, 4 or something, so before we had figured out that was a bad thing. So that's one way, is to make the hole so small they just can't put any part of their body in it to get stuck, right? But the other way is to make the hole so big that they can put whatever they want in it and it comes right out again. Okay, this guy actually kind of went in there and spun around and came out head first again, which cracked me up. Okay, both are fine. Just as, the point is you don't want them getting stuck. Maybe you can see what happened here. This PVC tube was put in the fishing cat pond so that the live fish that they were feeding had a safety refuge. Okay, and they came in the morning, and here's this poor fishing cat wandering around with this thing stuck on his head. You know, can't see or do anything. So they anesthetized him and were able to get it off. So this is kind of an interactive talk, okay? So obviously this was loose on the bottom of the pool. How could you fix it? So you can still use this for the goldfish, but he's not going to get stuck on his head.
Change the whole size so the head doesn't fit, but the fish can still get through.
Perfect. Another one? I forgot to look at it. Yeah.
I was like, hold it to the ground, but then he got his head in.
Can we come back?
Yeah.
No, can we come back to that one, please?
I just said
Same
anchor it
thing?
down.
Same thing? How else?
Make slots in the pipe.
Say again?
Make slots in the pipe.
Oh, for the fish, so block the ends but put slots in? That's a new one. Okay.
That was my idea, Jeff.
Sorry, Danielle.
Well, Jeff spoke first.
Make it out of a different material that can maybe people can buy the animal. I don't know what
Okay.
you use, but
Change the material, okay. Anything else?
Instead of a tube, just have it a cover, so just cut it in half and they can still be underneath,
Go underneath it?
but it's now not a hole.
Okay. These are different ones than I usually get, this is great.
We'll use a smaller tube, or use a bigger tube.
Okay,
Smaller that it can't fit its head into, or cause it to, or.
similar to the first one, but
Those
yeah,
are-
bigger, no, but she didn't say bigger,
Okay,
so
yeah.
here's another one.
Not give them a hide, period.
Now, the rule was we have to give them a hide. It is a perfectly good solution, but I'm trying to get you to focus on that.
make it less deep so that actually the head can actually get stuck. So if it's only like a few inches and it's like anchored to the wall.
You could have a necklace by the morning.
No, anchored to the wall, it's like a little tiny wall mounted that the
Okay.
face can't go into.
Have to play with that one, not sure the fish would use it if it was short enough, but I like your thinking.
Cut it in half.
Got that one
I
already.
think we got that one already. You're so polite, just yell.
Oh, I think it goes along with using a different material, but if there was like plant material in the water, then, or browse pieces in the water. That the fish
Instead
could
of the tube?
drink Instead of the tube.
Yeah, I actually like that one. But I like that, I like where you're going, but I want to stick with the tube just for the purposes of this discussion.
Okay.
No, I mean, we had other material, use a different
Yeah.
material, so.
A really detailed one. So if you're not gonna change the tube, then having a way for the cat to take it off if it puts his head in there. So either like things on the side so
That
it
you can push on?
push out.
These are all new ideas, I love this. Brainstorming with these guys. Okay,
What people normally say.
so that's been just about, I didn't look at my watch right away, so I'm gonna go 45 seconds. So one of the things that happens is people just give up. Oh my God, you can't use this in the thing, okay? Because an animal almost died. And no more PVC tubes in pools anywhere in the zoo, okay? My point is, in 45 seconds, you came up with 8 solutions, all of which except one, I think are a done deal. You know, would absolutely work well. And in fact, some of them are subsided, like you came up with at least 2 different kinds of materials to use, okay? Also, you could very simply just put an X across it. Which is usually the first thing I get. Or, you know, put a cap on it with a small hole, which is similar to what you said. There's a lot of things like that.
Train the cat.
That's another one I haven't heard before.
They knew, he knows now.
Actually, no, I'm going to show you him again. Really idiot cat. But I do want to come back to what I think you said about bolting it down, and someone else was gonna say, because no one ever says that to me, but that was one of the earlier things I thought of too. What if we bolt it down?
He would drown.
Well, you never go. Maybe he'd be.
Work it out.
He really dug himself in and pushed off the side of the tank. He'd be underwater, so you'd have a little more.
So that's the thing, is our first reaction is, oh my God, he'd be dead because he drowned, which is quite possible. But if it's fixed, you know,
We probably
you
would
should just be able to push out from the bottom.
Who wants
Right?
to test that?
Exactly. That's exactly, I might actually test it in dryness, okay? But the point is that actually that might be safer. And I just want to point that out to you, okay? I wouldn't do it because if you're wrong, it's a pretty bad, effect, right? But you could test it and see how they do. Point is just think outside the box. Okay?
That would be a good idea though, what you said about testing it where it's not water,
Yeah.
right? Is that a way you could like take it almost?
I mean, if I were there and had time, I would do it just because I'm curious. Because I really think it would actually, personally, I really think it would be safer to just, fix it to the bottom. But I wouldn't do it.
I was gonna say, even if you did it 10 times outside.
I wouldn't do
water,
it. I wouldn't do it. I would just be curious, because that's me, I was just curious to know if they could do it. Okay, all right, next one. So, well, you remember this guy, you've seen him a couple of times now with his tire to get aggression out, this wild boar. And I think you can see, I don't think the video, I did the video. So as he's working in this, Rafi, sweetheart, what do you think about that full size? Is that something he can get trapped in?
Yeah.
Anybody doubt that? Yeah, me neither. It's like, and his body is just perfectly, the height it's at, the size it is, and his nice little tapered nose are just go right in there and get stuck. All right, so how do we fix that?
Cut the bottom of the tire.
Make a slice through the bottom of the tire, it's the easiest thing, absolutely. Put an accent Absolutely! I like it.
Bigger tire.
Bigger tire, that he could go all the way through.
Or smaller.
Or smaller, pretty small. And it would have to be, but you could work with that, but that's a little tricky
Also might
one.
not meet the goal if it's too small.
Yeah.
Too small might not be good enough for the.
Yeah, beat up, yeah.
Fire hose straps across the.
Fire hose straps, like you saw in the elephant one, exactly.
Could you anchor it to the ceiling and the ground so that if he got stuck, he could push out of it?
Ooh, I like that idea, good thinking. I mean, yeah, I think you could, I think you'd have to play around with it a bit, but yeah, I think you could. What else? Okay, I think that was 5 ideas in 45 seconds. No, it's 45. Yeah, that's why I always look for more.
Fire off the elephant.
Huh?
How do you guys get the tire off the elephant?
I don't know.
Like that,
Yes. It's actually anchored. Can you see the strap? It's anchored with fire hose right here. But it was on a really long anchor, and he got it on, and there was a moment of panic, no doubt. But then he got it off, and actually I lied, he actually did get the device again, but only when he was supervised. And he really, to me, this guy, he's a young guy, he was a lesson about how much, particularly male elephants, seem to really like to wrap themselves up in stuff. So then it was going back through the process and finding out safe ways for them to do this. And that really wasn't something that was done a whole lot, but he did seem to have skill at getting himself out of it.
So, not being the person who experiences. I always like to use this picture because if you don't know anything about it except this picture, she's already verified, you can see that it's tethered, okay? Although not tethered high, it's tethered horizontally to him. And you can see that it's actually not stuck on him, it's sitting on him. If you look really carefully here, there's space, okay? And yeah, he'd have to wiggle it a little bit to get it over his head, but he certainly should be able to do that, and as Margaret just verified, he did, okay? So, safe or not safe? Safe, but not for long. Yeah, he's a little guy. long before that's really dangerous for him.
And safe when he's alone,
Or safe when he's alone.
because there's other
Because of the
animals
panic,
that
yeah.
have bigger heads.
Yeah, okay, so again, think about the individual. Again, I probably wouldn't do this, even though right now it's safe because people forget and, oh, let's do the tire today, and da-da-da-da, and, you know, forgetting that 3 months have gone by and that little bit of time is enough to make a difference.
It's not a pinhead, it's good for pinheads.
Okay, this is the video Margaret showed yesterday, safe or not safe?
The attachment
The
points.
loops are pretty big.
Yeah.
Make me nervous.
Too loopy, he's got a news.
If it breaks, he's got a lot of uses, yeah. Anything else?
Maybe, are we saying about safety issues? If he climbs up or somebody,
Yeah, that's, my daughter did that on a
Yeah.
tire swing, yeah? Do you understand? If he kind of climbs up and gets it spinning, he gets wrapped up in the ropes.
His hand also caught underneath the rope ring.
Right there, yeah. Not only his hand, he can get his head in there, okay? I mean, look, he'd have to work a little bit, but he'd get his head in there. Get his back leg in there all the way up to the hip, okay? So how can you fix that?
Corks.
What's
Say corks.
Corks.
Put a cork in the hole.
It's not for the hole, for the.
Oh,
The loop of the rope is the big,
Okay, never mind.
sorry. Although he's right. I didn't even think of that. I didn't see this video till yesterday, okay? I didn't even think of that because he's right. He could break his fingers in those holes. You're absolutely right. I
And
didn't
also
think of that.
bolt, a swivel bolt kind of, so it's not going over the branch. So his hands can't get caught.
Okay,
A single attachment, yeah.
a single attachment
That could
on
be
the log,
swivel.
but a single attachment causes it to turn.
but she's saying a swivel,
Oh.
so
So
that
it could
the whole
turn.
thing swivels. Okay, what else?
Yeah.
Instead of.
You could eyeball, you could well,
Eyebolts
yeah.
individual.
In the
So like four in the dish that go up to the single attachment.
PVC.
I'm not sure that
on-
material would hold up long to an eyeball, but that's the right idea.
We use PVC on the thing so it won't wrap.
Yeah, that's another
If
way.
you have a whole bunch of little ones playing on it, if somebody's up there, somebody's on the bottom,
Exactly,
they won't be able to
that's
get
exactly right. What else?
Instead of tying the loop knots around the swing, just put them through and tie the knots on the bottom.
Yeah, and this is a really good, one of the biggest problems we have is loops. Okay, and people forget, in this case, it's still not safe, but if that was tied really tight, it's still a loop when the green thing, whatever it is, comes off. Okay, and you have people tie brows constantly by wrapping stuff around, then tying it to itself and then hanging it. Well, when all that brows is gone, all that unwraps, but it's tied to itself, so you just have a big loop. All that rope you wrapped around is now a loop, and it's hanging. And it's at feeding height for whatever animal, which is head height. Okay? So one of the things we do in our workshops is talk about different ways as we're building to not have loops. But this is such a nice example, and just think linear. Anything you can do linear, okay? Or really, really small loops. So with brows, I literally will tie to one branch, so the loop's like, you know, this big, and then tie to the next branch, tie to the next branch, pain in the butt, okay? But when all is said and done, what you're left with is a string with a lot of little tiny loops on it for the giraffe or whatever, okay? So that's, think linear.
It's the only time.
And I don't know if this played or not. How about this? So this is another 2 wire baskets put together with a whole bunch of straw in it and a big whole carrot in the middle. And the behavior they were going for was stick your hand in there, kind of fish around. But animals never do what we expect if they don't get the memo on time. Bingo. Get the monkey safe or not safe?
It's not too big.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
know, it's just too big.
It looks like their head could fit through the sides of the basket.
If you get towards the ends, it does get, it's
Yeah.
like this. And so, to be honest, If there was something holding him down at the end, I would probably not use it, but even if he kind of fell off the branch, he's still, it's not hanging, so he's still able to grab the branch or hang on to the thing itself. Again, I would like it to be safer, but this actually doesn't bother me, okay, because of the distance apart.
So knowing your animals at that point too, because
Of course,
lemurs don't like to reach in and get things. They'd rather stick their faces up to their food instead of, they don't manipulate items like
Yeah.
monkeys do.
yeah.
So, no thinking that he was gonna reach in and grab it, probably knowing your animals.
Again, in the workshops, we encourage people to work with animals they don't know. But we usually do give a fact sheet, but it doesn't include things like that. So, but you're right. You want to work with whatever their natural inclination is for it. So I'm sure you guys know how to figure 8 wires, right? I'm sorry, butterfly finish, I used the wrong word. No, I guess right. I'll show you the butterfly, I don't have a thing. I'll show you the butterfly finish later. So when you're putting 2 branches together for perching, what happens, and this is a bad picture, but what happens is you'll just wrap them around the X and you wind up with these gaps that legs and heads and all sorts of things can go in. Right? So if you do it this way instead. Do you guys know this or not? If you-
Is it like where, it would be like we have a zip tie and then you put another zip tie through it, so there's a security on
You
it.
can do that if you can use a zip tie.
Yeah.
And a figure 8.
Okay.
That's a figure 8. Basically, you only wrap 1 perch at a time. So you can't start with the end of the rope.
Right.
You have to start with the
Wrap
middle of
around
the rope or the
both
wire.
At the same time.
Right. So you wrap 1 and twist. Wrap the other one, come all the way around and twist. Wrap this one, come all the way around and twist. Okay? Okay. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see. All right, we saw this already. Obviously, since I put it in the safety video, I don't think it's safe. Why?
Get caught.
That other rope is really long.
Get his antlers caught. He can either go up bipedal, as they will do when they go to attack, and get his head caught up in there, in the rope. Yeah. To be fair, when we put this in, it was high enough that he could only reach it with the top of his antlers. But rope is that thing it is, and it doesn't take it long when you start putting weight on it, especially for it to kind of sag. And because we couldn't go in with him, this was from a tree outside the enclosure to a tree outside the enclosure, so it was a really long rope. So this can be fixed a number of ways. Use steel cable, with proper tools to tighten it down and lock it in. Or one of the things we do a lot that really helps is soak the rope the night before, just stick it in a vat, and it's a little pain to work with, but actually that takes most of the stretch out of it. So if you can get it tied tight, it doesn't actually give so much. Natural rope, not, or you can use something like climbing rope that's not going to dip down as much. Okay?
I guess you'd also want to maybe then change the whole structure, because it seems like if it's up really high, he's not going to have nearly as much fun with it as he's having when it's actually at the height of another animal.
Yeah, and behaviorally decreasing aggression by going up isn't really going to do it. When they go up, they go up to come down on something, so the thing still needs to be lower. So you're right, I don't think it would meet his need. Remember, this enrichment can go out there and stay out there for the 6 weeks approximately that they're in rut, and then after that it's gone. One of the things we find is when we give them stuff to do for those 6 weeks, sometimes the keepers actually can get them to shift. Normally, those 6 weeks, if you even walk up to the mesh, they'll charge you and the antlers come right through the mesh at you, okay? And so they literally will take 2 guys and just heave a bunch of hay over and hope for the best, okay, for 6 weeks. But what we found is when after they get a chance to do something like this for an hour, they can go and call, and they might go in the barn and let them run. Usually they don't have guillotines, they have to run out and slam it. These guys are crazy, but that's what they do. And so they can get out there and fix the exhibit and put food out for the next day or whatever, and then let them out. So that seemed to be effective. Okay, this is a bungee cord with one of the boomer balls shaped, and boomer ball share expenses to donate boomer balls wherever we travel in the developing world. And this is what they did with one of the 6-inch boomer balls. And I'm going to ask you to brainstorm this one again. And I want the movement to it, I want the bounciness to it, all that stuff she's reacting to. But how can we keep her from getting her leg tangled in it like that?
Cover and fire hose.
Cover and fire hose, bingo. Just throw it out there.
Oh,
I'm not used to this
you
politeness.
could do PVC, but also put a spring at the very top where she can't get to it, so it still has that bounciness.
Garage door spring.
Still.
The garage door spring's too strong for her, even the weak ones, but yes. Or
And
tiny
then,
bond.
you know, not a tiny little string.
Yeah. Well, you said put the PVC on it.
Yeah.
If you do that, you can still use the bungee, right?
Because it will just rest on the ball. It stretches.
Sorry, you use the bungee to the PVC, or the branch, or whatever it is that they can't wrap around. So it's just bungeed from the top instead of balling.
That's what I said.
I'm sure you can come up with more. But please don't try and hang it at the right height. Take that and put it up higher so she can't get wrapped in it. Do you see why that won't work? Well, there's a possibility it would work.
It's not gonna be this one. It's not gonna take the same goal, it won't be.
With her, with the main wolf, it probably would.
Just get her head wrapped
She
in it.
jumps up to get it.
Yeah, yeah. If she stands up or jumps up, the point is where are you going to hang it to make it safe? And with a 6-inch ball, your window of success is, if it exists, is really, really small. Because she still has to be able to hit it, right? So how are you going to get it so she can hit it at the bottom, but no matter what else she does, she can't get 6 inches higher? And that's an impossible goal for you, I think. Okay.
You can tether it at both ends so it slides back and forth.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. You know, I suppose you could do that and then put it on the PVC or whatever. But just to get it sliding back and forth without the bounciness of the bungee, that's a different behavior, that's a different movement, and there's a lot of things like that you could do with this, and with her in particular. But I wanted to try and focus on staying with that same functionality, yeah. Okay, you need to take behavior into account as well. This is a few years ago, we did this pond turtle thing, and I kept saying, but look, the rope that pond turtles can strangle themselves on. You know, and you're drawing them to it with their favorite food. And he said, no, they can't get up that high. And I went, and I stopped myself, and I looked at the person I was working with in Singapore, and I said, should we just let it go? And she started laughing. And she said, you know what? The enclosure barrier is this high, and we're standing right here, so just let the turtles teach them faster than we can. And sure enough, I had to put my stuff away so we'd go in and rescue them. But this is what pond turtles do. They stack on top of each other. We had like 15 of them there, and they were up here. Okay, in a minute, you know? I mean, that's what pond turtles do. And so then it's clearly not safe, right? The guy on the top gets all caught up in the rope and slips off, as they do, the pyramid, and, you know, he's being strangled. Or he gets his little claws caught in the rope, you know, he's dangling from his leg, okay? Now, probably not such a big problem with Aldobrans, I'm gonna guess.
Well, they could eat the rope and then have.
But if it was up high enough, see, what they were saying here is they can't reach the rope. Because the bottom of the rope is here, and the head is here.
When
Okay?
they're stacking, they're not thinking about food.
When,
Yeah.
yeah, Dobrans, yeah, exactly. Okay, so again, it's know your animal, as we said before, and not just their likes and dislikes and their abilities, but their behavior. Okay, most dangerous thing in the zoo, in my opinion, frayed rope. Haven't yet visited a zoo anywhere in the world, in the 60-ish countries I've been in, without finding frayed rope in a zoo that have rope. Haven't been around here yet this trip, but last trip we found some. So, okay, why? Why is it more dangerous than the rope? The rope is fine.
They can eat it.
You and eat it. It's easier to eat when it's in little pieces, yeah.
Get caught in it.
They get caught in it. The original size rope, you're going to use a thickness and stiffness that's not easy to wrap around whatever animal you're working for. What goes in for a parakeet is going to be different than for a macaw, it's going to be different than for a leopard, okay? But when it winds itself down into all these little myriad of tiny little fibers, then it's really flexible and it's going to wrap really easy around anything. Okay? So, for example, I'm only allowed to show this if I tell you that when that gorilla went out in the morning, that was one rope. That's how fast it can happen. And it's all funny and stuff, but imagine if she was up on one of the platforms doing this.
What if she wants to commit suicide and mess around?
Well, I guess we should enable that, I guess. I don't know.
Actually, she doesn't have a spiked brain.
Taking away.
So the reason why she's taking it off and going is because the keeper is calling her in now. You know, because this has been found and, yeah. So. Yeah. So again, when you see that, don't panic and take the entire rope structure down. Take the Leatherman out of your pocket, tie a knot in it up at the top of the fray and cut the damn rope. It doesn't take long. And do it then. Don't do it tomorrow or tonight, or just do it, because you'll forget. Sometimes it doesn't have a happy ending. And this animal was found dead in the morning, and his foot was entangled, not his neck. So I think you can all imagine what went on all night long, or for some period of the night before he died from heart attack. So I just threw this picture in because Margaret showed you the anteaters. The one that she showed you, they had mounted on the outside of the enclosure, but this one they screwed up, but it gives you a better idea of what the device looked like. This one they messed up and they put it on the anteater side. So the anteater actually has access to that acrylic. Okay. The wooden frame was just to keep them from getting at the edges. So it just needs to be mounted on the outside, that's all. Okay. This, you wanna?
Well, that was another big, strong PVC pipe that was going to be a hay feeder or an elephant, and that thing was heavy and seemed really strong, but not strong enough.
Not strong enough.
And when the PVC shatters, really sharp edge, and it didn't take 20 seconds for him to shatter that PVC. And yeah, really sharp edges that, you know, can cut skin.
They're razor blades. If for any of you who work with PVC, you know. If it's not a nice cut, it's a razor blade. The same is actually true of boomer balls. They're really sharp when they break. I pulled this one out of a tiger enclosure, and the problem with that one is not that the tiger is going to get stuck in those little holes. The problem with that one is the structural integrity is just shot. You know, and pretty much anything it does is going to break it off, and then you're going to have these razor blades. And they're most likely to do it with their jaws. So this is the butterfly finish I was talking about. That's bad, don't look at that. But basically when you cut wire, it's a razor edge. Okay, so just file it down if you, depending on the animal you're working with. With macaws, I actually file them down before I turn them under, because I don't want a face cut, because that can kill them. So just turn it under and do it so. So the edges aren't exposed. Is that cloth right?
Yep.
Yeah. You want to make sure they don't swallow things. There are a lot of bad things that can happen if they do. Here's the same fishing cat again. Not the smartest tool in the shed. But they saved him again. The keeper was on the ball and noticed that proper feces material wasn't coming out. And so they did an exploratory and found a cotton bag that they had given the animal's diet, which consisted of fish, in. So this leads to one of our cardinal rules, and I actually put this text in just so you'd have it in your books. We use a lot of different things to put food in, and some of the times we do a feeder, it's going to be really simple, like a cardboard box with some stuff in it, okay, or a cotton bag with some stuff in it. But any material that they can eat, like cardboard or paper or cloth bags or hessian, burlap, Anything they can eat but shouldn't eat should never have messy food in it, period. And that's dried fruit, fish, meat, juicy stuff, anything that can be absorbed by that material, because that is only going to encourage them to eat that thing, whatever that thing is. If you have that kind of messy food, those feeders that you use are things like PVC and boomer balls and things that they can't eat, okay? Or you can use things that they can eat, but it's okay for them to eat, like bamboo, okay? The bear starts chewing on the bamboo and swallowing it, that's fine. All right? Make sense? Okay, and then do you guys know about this cardboard thing? So we've been hearing about this for a few years now, and it kind of came to light in 2007 when we started collecting all this information for one of the papers that's going to be on your little bears. And it turns out it's, as far as I know, it's been reported on 6 continents, and it's only reported in carnivores. And I think every report is we gave the food at night before we went home and we came in the morning and found this, okay?
So I've heard, because of the otters, there is, that it's a certain type of cardboard. Have you experienced it with all types and everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's only this type, and
Well,
I never quite understand what they mean.
yeah, so here's our theory, and it's in that paper. I cannot get any of the companies to verify this. I think they're afraid of a lawsuit or something. But what's universal to the 6 continents, okay? And I think what's going on is that as a planet, we've gotten very good at recycling paper products. And I think nowadays, even when I'm in, Podunk, Thailand, the boxes are made of recycled paper now. And so when I've talked to people who manufacture these things, before they decide they shouldn't talk to me anymore, what I get from them is the process that they use to make recycled paper and cardboard involves at least 2, and oftentimes many more than 2 types of glue, whereas new paper is 1 type of glue. And the ones they use, at least one of the ones that they use for recycled paper is a really strong glue. Okay, so what I think is happening is they come in, they chew on this stuff, because the paper bag or the box had fruit in it, okay, and they chew on it, and the chewing breaks down the glue, and maybe it has to do with salivary material too, I don't know. But something kind of breaks down the glue, but that's okay, they finish eating, and then they go to sleep. And then it hardens while they're sleeping with their mouths closed. That's the only thing I can figure out. I really can't say for sure if it's true, because whenever I try and pin somebody down, and I've tried this like 4 different companies.
Are you looking for volunteers to try this on themselves?
Are you volunteering?
I don't know.
But you like to talk so much.
But she's not a carnivore.
She's a mouth. She's a mouth for dinner?
So that's a good thing. Okay, this is really great, because we got through at least half of this talk. So tomorrow,
Oh, the drafting.
the criteria?
The high and low at Galen.
Okay, yes, sorry, you didn't specifically mention it when you talked about the criteria, so I think it didn't get through that that's what you were talking about. So the drafting is, when Margaret went through the chart,
Oh, yes, that's the part.
yeah, and she was talking about the criteria. You do your brainstorming, you come up with a list, and then you run them through all of your criteria. Your criteria are going to include, it has to be safe, the draft
Guys,
stuff has to
hold
be safe.
on, please don't leave just yet. Are you done? Okay,